perhaps the most important policy area, a foundationally important policy area when it comes to energy and all of the attendant issues that you have been talking about already at this particular forum. I want to acknowledge Pat Uswa as well from Sask Power and her leadership with the council, as well as Dean Reeve from Sask Energy. I know that they are very much involved with the Energy Council of Canada, and I want to thank them for the work they've done in that regard, and I assume as well for the forum here today. I think it's important in presentations like this to make a clear point of what I would hope that you take away from it. I'm not sure we do a good enough job of that when politicians are communicating, so I'm going to begin with that actually, and I'll underscore it perhaps with a story from my house, from my home. It was about just 2 months ago or so. I was at home on a Friday. My wife was at work, and I was charged with getting the kids off to school, having breakfast and off to school without any major incident. That was my job. And the first two, our oldest two, were out the door, and our youngest was just sort of having breakfast, waiting for her turn to head out to school or getting done what she needed to have done. And the newspaper arrived at the same time. So I reached into the mailbox and pulled it out. And there on the front page was a story of the most recent public opinion polling in the province of Saskatchewan. And you know, it doesn't mean much 2 years into things, I know that, but the poll was pretty good. It was not bad for the government, and you know, it was even okay for me as far as the leader of the government. So I was feeling pretty good, frankly, about that front page. And there was a picture of me, and Faith was at the table eating her oatmeal. I don't know how we managed to get her. I got her the oatmeal that morning, but that's what she was doing. And you know, I kind of walked over. She's in grade 6, and so she kind of understands politics and knows what I do, and we talk a little bit about it. And I put down the paper in front of her, and I just pointed to it, and I, again, feeling pretty proud of myself, I said, Faith, what do you think of that? And she looked at the paper like this and said, cool, Jim Carrey's Christmas Carol is being released this week. This was just a little corner of the paper. My picture was huge. So she got from that front page of the newspaper the message that she saw first, and that's why I want to tell you very clearly what my message is today. It's not about that poll, by the way. You'll be happy to know. It is about innovation, and it is about the role that I hope it will play in the forums that follow this one, and in the last of the forum in Montreal, and in the counsel that this council gives to various governments. Albert Einstein once said that the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. He said, we have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. And I want to focus today, if I can, on the sacred gift. The intuitive mind that sees things that others don't, that draws relationships that escape most of us, linkages and patterns that others miss. Minds that find innovative solutions to problems that have been around for a very, very long time and looked at by great minds down through the years. One such mind belongs to the current Secretary of Energy in the United States. Stephen Chu is someone who's since becoming the Secretary of Energy in the Obama administration. I think we've seen the balance that he has now struck between the pure research he did in his previous life and the pragmatism of fashioning public policy and energy policy in the United States. And we now see Secretary Chu calling really for the entire envelope of energy options as America seeks to, as the administration seeks to reduce the carbon footprint of the energy sector in that country, but also in a way that doesn't unnecessarily or unduly debilitate the economy, that will pay for the progress they want to make in energy development. I've had a chance to meet with Secretary Chu privately. We've had a chance to meet with him in a bigger group with the Western Governors Association, invited the pre-Western premiers to attend their most recent meeting, and Secretary Chu was there. And I've heard him firsthand talk about what's possible. But on the 21st of July last year, he was on The Daily Show. And he said some things I'd never heard him talk about, either privately or in those other meetings. He told Jon Stewart that switching to white roofs and making road pavement a lighter color could, depending on shades, from a climate change perspective, be the same as taking every car in the world off the road for 11 years. For 11 years. The question that comes to mind when you hear something like that is, how can there be such a, at least from a perception standpoint, how can there be such a simple, elegant, and effective solution to an issue that's plaguing people, plaguing the world, plaguing policy makers around the world? And why isn't anyone else talking about at least that element of the potential solution? He's got one of those intuitive minds that Einstein was talking about when he coined that phrase. I'm sure you can think of others. I'm looking at Malcolm, and I know between him and many others in this room, there are those kinds of minds right here in the province of Saskatchewan. We are blessed with that kind of capacity. I'm not sure we're fully utilizing it as we should, that capacity, but we are blessed with it, and we are tasked to find better ways to maximize the potential of this innovation, and that's what I want to talk about today. Saskatchewan in particular, and jurisdictions that are represented in this room, have prospered when they have embraced the intuitive mind and the innovative spirit and applied it to their strengths, their economic strengths. And in our case, it's resources, and more on that in a moment as well. And we will continue to prosper. In fact, our prosperity virtually depends on the extent to which we are effective at fomenting and fostering the spirit that Einstein speaks of, especially in the area of sustainable energy development, especially in the area that you have been, and the issues that you have been seized with here at this forum, and will be in other meetings, again, leading up to what happens this fall. Our goal in the province of Saskatchewan is nothing short of developing North America's most aggressive energy innovation agenda. The foundation of that innovation agenda must be twofold. It must be in the infrastructure, in the research and development, the innovation infrastructure we have in the province of Saskatchewan. And we're very near to a centerpiece of that infrastructure now, the various centers of excellence that now exist at the University of Regina. But also foundational to that innovation agenda is the natural resources that we have, the royalties from which actually will fund the government, the public sector involvement in innovation, number one, and number two, the resources we have, especially the energy resources, are the very building blocks of that future sustainable energy, or at least the energy with that is increasingly more sustainable from a carbon standpoint, and just generally from an environmental standpoint. Ours is a rich resource base. It is prolific. Saskatchewan alone produced 20.5% of the world's uranium in 2008. That's 23 million tons. 161 million barrels of oil a year. That's we sell more oil to the United States than Kuwait. 43.3 billion barrels of oil in place, and more of it coming into play all the time because of enhanced oil recovery projects, the likes of which are being researched by companies themselves and right here at the University of Regina. Production from EOR projects in Saskatchewan has grown from under 2,400 barrels a day 27 years ago to 51,000 barrels a day last year. It's a 20-fold increase. And when we are engaged with our American friends, by the way, on the issue of fossil fuels especially, but on just generally on trade issues, we don't talk about this enough, about the potential of EOR. Imagine, if you will, if all of the fossil fuel, the oil producing, I'll say, jurisdictions of North America, Texas and Colorado and Wyoming, and I mean, think of all of them, Alaska, Alberta, Saskatchewan, BC, Newfoundland and Labrador. If all of us decided together, through some coordinated effort, to focus on enhanced oil recovery, I think this room, many in this room, understand the magic of recovery rate math. That only incremental increases in the recovery rate of existing oil assets can mean exponential increases in production, and that goes to the heart of the issue of energy independence for the continent and energy security for the United States. And I'll tell you what, notwithstanding the CO2 issue and what happened in Copenhagen, I believe the number one issue when it comes to energy in the United States with the legislators is energy security and energy independence. And here we have in the potential for enhanced oil recovery a big part of the answer. And I know it's short term because we're still talking about a